Hi, I'm Miesha.
And I'm Sean.
From Miesha and The Spanks. And welcome to Spanks World.
Spanks World! Spanks World! Talking about Spanks World! Spanks World! Two people, one band. Spanks World! Spanks World! Two people, one band. Spanks World! Spanks World!
This is our new weekly promotional series that we're going to do leading up to the release of our new album, Singles EP, that comes out April 16th. And we're just going to get into all of the songs, play them live for you, talk about what the studio is like.
I'll be bringing tips on recording, what kind of mustards get on my shirt and I forget about them when we start filming, and what it's like to drive everywhere because Miesha doesn't have her driver's license.
Yet. We are a garage rock band from here in Calgary. Two-piece, don't ask us why it's Spanks.
Don't ask us why there's not a bass player.
Don't ask if we need a bass player.
Don't be that guy at every show that's like, but have you thought about me as your bass player?
We haven't.
Spanks World! Spanks World!
So the album is coming out in April. Singles EP was supposed to be just 4 or 5 tracks that we just wanted kind of a transition album before we did another full length, because we had just been taking a bunch of time off because I had twins. And so we just wanted to throw some singles out there and have that be that. But everything went sideways. We had way more time off to work on the album because of COVID, and it got long. It's a 7-song EP. I know that's almost an album, but it's also almost not an album, so it's our EP. We recorded the EP in Lethbridge with Leroy Stagger producing it. It was really fun working with him. He's all about like the integrity of the music, and so we went to him knowing he's more in the Americana roots kind of vein now. Used to be very punk rock, still is like punk rock, but musically not so much anymore. And we kind of thought he would dial us back a bit, so we'd make some like pop-in songs that would be good for stuff like radio. And instead, because he's all about that truth in music, he turned us the fuck up. It was loud, there's lots of feedback. We added so much stuff.
Yep. Fuzzy guitars.
Fuzzy, crunchy, like
fuzzy vocals.
The soul of Spanks was to turn it up, so we did. So it's a pretty rockin' album because of that. And he's a great guy to work with. We were actually the very last session before he tore down his studio and moved to Victoria. They were unplugging cables and packing up when we were loading up our gear. It was that fast. So feels very special to have been in that like hand-built studio for the very, very last time.
Rest in peace, Rebel Tone Ranch.
And then resurrected. I think it's in Victoria now. For the very first episode, we have our new single, Mixed Blood Girls, coming out in 2 days. So Mixed Blood Girls for me is really personal. I've been sitting on writing this song for a few years now. I went to my friend Smokey Sumac, who's a great Indigenous poet, their book launch at the university, and another Indigenous poet, Rain Prudhomme, opened up, and she had a poem about it was called Mixed Blood Girls, and it's about being Creole, Indigenous, and I'm mixed. I'm Shekhet and white on my mom's side, and I've never really dug into that. You know, obviously that's my full life experiences being that. I've never really talked about it too much, or gotten into it, and so I was inspired by this poem, and I wanted to maybe want to share my story too, but actually writing it took a couple years because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to pin down, and so I stepped kind of softly into it. When my grandmother was in residential school, she had a lot of trauma, and not everybody who survived that was resilient, and she wasn't, and so it reflected then on how she raised her kids and how they raised their kids. And my dad kept me kind of separate from that family because of that. He managed to escape and make a pretty healthy life for himself, and so he tried to keep me a little bit separate from my Indigenous identity and my family. And so I grew up being very aware of who I am and what I am, but not connected to it at all. I grew up with being told I was too pretty to be an Indian, from parents' mums at ballet recitals to later in life, dudes at bars. And kids always comparing their winter vacation tans to my skin. I have pretty white features. people's reactions to that and what they feel is appropriate to say to me is pretty interesting. So the song covers a lot of that. It was heavy to write. I was really anxious. I didn't even show Sean the lyrics until I was like completely finished.
I know that you'd been trying to write that song for years. Like when we were in the UK, you were talking about different forms of it. And like you said, I'd never heard it. I never heard the lyrics. You really held those pretty close until it was time. And then I remember the first jam playing and being like, oh my gosh, like it was really heavy. And I think one of the best things with recording was Leroy understood that immediately, and we made the song heavy. It slams. Like some of the parts playing it, it's just really raw. We didn't overthink it at all. We just played the parts and just turned all the guitars up. There's a part in the song where Miesha's telling the story of her cousins and her aunts and uncles, and you know, it would sort of make sense to bring the music down to let the lyrics kind of come forward, but everything just stayed up. And I think that we found a way to make the instrumentation match the raw emotion of the story and the well-crafted emotion too. So it was a really powerful song to work on. And I think the whole time we knew in the studio too, like Leroy and I, that we had to like do it justice. Like it was a song where the lyrics really meant something. And so it was a lot of fun to record, but also like when it came out and it sounded good, it was like, oh yeah, thank goodness.
1, 2, 3,
Next week on Spanks World.
Does the band stay together? Probably.
I hope so.
Okay, Whitney, just you have to pick a position. Okay.
Come sit. Sit.
Yeah.
Good girl.
Okay.
Okay.